What's going on, everybody? My name is Will. I'm here with my boy Julian. Guys, CONCACAF Gold Cup is around the corner. We're excited. I'm hyped. I am so hyped, y'all. I don't even know if you guys can tell in my voice. My boy Julian's hyped. Guys, we got a lot to talk about in this upcoming summer, these upcoming weeks and whatnot, all about it. But like I said, we got a lot to talk about it. I feel like 21 Savage right now, man. I'm saying a whole bunch of times. But Julian, overall thoughts, dude. Gold Cup's coming up. We're going to be talking a little bit. I want to pick your brain a little bit. I want to talk about, I got a little interesting topic for you. Teams that need to
Mm,
have a big tournament. And before we go ahead and do that, I want to define what we're talking about. I'm not talking about like, well, Mexico needs to add more titles of the trophy, or something like that. No. Talking about teams that we believe and we feel if do not have a good 2025 Gold Cup summer, the future is going to be ruined for a minute. It's going to be a tough summer. It's going to be a tough couple of years coming out of this for X, Y, and Z reasons and whatnot. But yeah, dude, I want to pick your brain a little bit. Overall thoughts. Obviously, we're going to dive before we get into the countries. I want to hear, what are you most looking forward to this Gold Cup, Julian? What are you most hyped about?
Obviously, I'm hyped about my own team, Los Ticos.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what they're going to bring and what they're going to bring. But honestly, I'm just excited to see like the Gold Cup be taken seriously this go around. I mean,
Agreed.
as serious as it's been in the past, like what 5 years or something like that. So I think the past few iterations has just not been that good, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I think that hosting the tournament every 2 to 3 years, I'm not necessarily a fan of. I think it takes away from the prestige of it. I think when it's or the allure to it, because it's just, I don't know. It just feels like it happens all the time. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
maybe that's going to change
Agreed.
with the future with Copa Americas and stuff like that. Potentially, CONCACAF teams being in there permanently. So maybe that changes that. But no, in general, yeah, I'm super excited. I love CONCACAF tournaments. I like seeing teams, and every iteration, I hope that we see another team other than the United States or Mexico win it all. So, and
Or in
this
the
is
final.
no
That
different.
That's all I care about. But yeah, no, I agree, dude. Let's get into it. Let's roll. Like I said, topic for today. I want to talk a little bit about, dude, teams that need to have a big tournament, teams that need to show up, teams that need to be able to come out of this tournament, Julian, and look back in the mirror and look at themselves wherever they're at and say, I put up a damn good fight. I put up a damn good battle. We won a couple games, maybe drew some teams, got a goal, whatever it was. But to be able to say, hey, that was a damn good tournament. Julian, roll it off. Give me your first team. I want to hear this. Who's a team that needs to have a good Gold Cup?
I'm going to stick to my team. I'm going to say Costa Rica. I think the reason because is
Agreed.
over the past few years, Costa Rica has been going through a generational change. This generation is now entering their second year. This is going to be their second tournament together, playing as a whole. Sadly, this time around, it's going to be with another coach. If I would feel less inclined to say that if we still had Gustavo Alfaro, but with
Uh-huh.
Gustavo Alfaro out down in Paraguay, you're now bringing Piojo Herrera. So this is going to be really interesting because I want to see what he does with this team. Obviously, this is a coach who is known for his attacking tactics, and this is a young, raw team that is still figuring out who they are in this region as well as an international team. There's a
Yeah.
lot of young talent. There's a lot of foreign talent on this team. And I do think there's some positions that are up for grabs that people need to figure out who's going to be that leading into the World Cup. Obviously, we all know like this is going to be the last major tournament. Obviously, we have World Cup qualifying, but not to disrespect other nations, but if you're looking
Yeah.
at a country like Costa Rica, you want to kind of enter you want ideally like you're the favorites to make the World Cup. You should make the World Cup. I'd be shocked if you didn't, if we didn't. But this is going to be your last chance at going against higher level opposition. So
Yes, you're
you
not.
got to take
You
advantage of it
guys
as you
suck.
will.
That's what Julian just said.
So you got to do something with it. And I think this is another tournament where they need to showcase what they have to live up to what they did in the Copa America. I think it's a team that no one really talks about in their performance last year. I thought they played amazing considering all the circumstances that went into that tournament, being the youngest team in the Copa America, going against probably the group of death, and you went out there and you can say that you were the best team that got grouped in the entire tournament. And they put up a battle, they put up a fight, and I would say that these teams, from what I've seen and from the fan base in Costa Rica, like they want to see more out of this team. They want, like, there's that pressure of like, all right, you've had your first tournament, let's get better now. Now you got to actually like showcase that talent that you have, and so I think this is going to be a tournament where it's going to be a lot of figuring out. I think because they'll be kind of bouncing back and forth between different formations and things like that. And so, with that being said, look, man, they've been losing to Panama. You had that third spot in CONCACAF, and it's for forever, for as long as we can remember. And Canada's come in there and taken it, and so has Panama has leaped you. And I think this is a proving tournament that you're still around. That I'm tired of hearing people talk about Jamaica. We are here too, and we are better than them. And I think everybody's been kind of having them under the radar, and I think you have to prove yourself as that CONCACAF giant that you are, that they are, because you don't want to keep on following down that list, because and you got to make a splash. The reason why people revered this Costa Rican team for so many years is because of what they did. And they actually showed up in specific tournaments. And I do feel that this new team has that same identity based off what I've seen in that Copa America. And I think bringing in a guy who is even more of a leader than what Alfaro is. Granted, Alfaro is a great tactician, and I'm sure he was a great leader too. But you're bringing in a guy with even more energy in Piojo. So, and this is a guy who's super high on these players. So, and based off what I can gather from the Gold Cup prelim, yes, they played against Belize, but this team a year ago wouldn't have won that series 13-1. This team is a lot more lethal now, and I think, and also too, they're figuring out players more and more. I feel like every window we're learning, all right, this spot is solidified. This spot is solidified. All right, now we know we got two strikers, Alonso Martinez, Manfred Ugalde.
Right.
Now we know that Carlos Mora, he is going to be the right back. Now we know that Jalen Mitchell, stud. Patrick Siqueira, he is our goalkeeper of the future. Like, each window you're learning more and more, and I think this tournament is the time to establish those final few spots, figure out who's who, but then also like showcase to the region that you have not left, that you are still here. Because if you have a bad showing, I think it's going to really hurt the reputation a lot. So, and you don't want to lose that reputation.
Yeah.
Regardless if you make the World Cup or not.
Correct. Like Julian said, welcome to Julian's TED Talk about Costa Rican soccer and everything he wants to see. Now I'm playing. I'm dude. Listen, I completely agree. Since you said it, I'm going to go and kind of rip it off real quick. That's my first team as well, dude. I agree with what a lot you said. I also want to say, guys, by the way, I could tell that took a lot, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud of you, Julian, for saying that we did leapfrog you guys. That took a lot from you.
You have to win. At the end of the day, like in CONCACAF, that is.
Correct.
You guys still got to make the World Cup.
That's another subject for another day. But I agree with you, dude. Listen, Costa Rica has to show up. I think this is a tournament. The group is set up quite interesting. I think the last, and I'll give my biggest reason, and this is primarily my main reason, and then I want to move on to our next teams, is, dude, for Costa Rica, historically, you guys have just not been the best at the Gold Cup. For whatever reasons it is, whatever teams, riding in the high after in the 2015 Gold Cup. Now, obviously, I know the whole kind of little scandal with Kaler, the big not rumor, it was official. He just said he only wanted to play in World Cups and World Cup qualifiers, and he did. Yeah. Never really came to Gold Cups.
And he was our best player, and he never showed up to Gold Cups. And he was our best player, so we're going in with a man down.
Yeah, you're going in a man down and you're going in morale down. It just kind of, you're, like you said, your best player, your Champions League guy just says, bump you guys. I don't give a crap. I don't care. I'm not going to perform. I'm not going to show up to these games. So I think that was a big hurt. Like you said, I think there's a lot.
That's a CONCACAF problem too.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, there's a lot going in your guys' favor. I think you guys have a little bit of steam. I wouldn't say a lot. I wouldn't say all the mojo, but I think the vibes are good. I think the locker room is strong. I think you guys have, like I said, good vibes, good vibes rolling into this. I think it's a positive mindset, and like I said, that being the biggest reason, just historically, you guys have. I wouldn't go as far as saying frauds, but have been just downpour on it. Just excuse me, not downpour. Have not performed. You guys haven't performed up to that level yet. So I think it's a big tournament.
In
I will say
CONCACAF.
in
I
CONCACAF,
want to
but
specify in CONCACAF.
regarding, but obviously this is our federation. And I mean, like I said, it is one of those. It's still as much it is obviously other people would take the world stage a lot bigger, but still CONCACAF, you got to win trophies, you got to get hardware, you got to get silverware. This is a good topic. This is a topic for another day, and we'll talk about it later. What would you rather have, a good World Cup run or your regional trophy? It's another topic, Julian. Before you get into it, before you start breaking me down, talk about it, we will talk about it another day. I know it's a good one. It'll be a fun one. But like I said, I think you guys need a big tournament. I can see something. We'll see it. We'll talk more about it later in our prediction video. But our next team, Julian, I want to just spit it out. I don't know if you agree with me on this one. I got to go with the beautiful US of A, baby. Listen, and this is probably the biggest, like, just slam dunk answer. I don't know if it's the most obvious one and people would agree, but what happened back in March from the United States, they need to look in the mirror. They need to have a reality check. They need to have a self check and say, hey, where are we at right now? And obviously, it's been a tough couple of months for the United States. It's been a tough couple, just year, I guess you could say, tough while for these guys, more than just a year, going back to last Copa America and the last Gold Cup iteration before that, getting eliminated by us. So I think it's going to be interesting for the United States what exactly the game tactic is, to see what players they bring in. I think the plan doesn't change. They got to win a trophy. I think that's the only thing being said in the locker room. Get into these knockout stage games and go win games. I think that's what the U.S. is. I think that's what they're talking about. I'll be even real. I don't even think they're really even mentioning it. I think it's already installed in every player's mind. You have to win. We have to win. If we don't win, we are going into next summer, or not even win. If we get bounced in the semifinals by Saudi Arabia in penalties, or we get bounced out in the quarterfinals by a last second goal by Jamaica, or whatever the case may be, the U.S. is going to look back and they're going to say, holy cow, this is the worst tenure. It already really is. It's building up to be one of this tenures. But I think, like I said, my biggest reasoning for the U.S. having to have a big Gold Cup is they have a message to prove. They got something to prove. These guys got to go out there and they got to show something to the rest of the world and CONCACAF. So, Julian, do you agree with me on that? Is that another team, or who are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree with you, especially since this is going to be their last competitive tournament till the World Cup. They got all they're going to have is friendlies, and how many friendlies are they even going to really have, because the rest of the world is still going through qualifying and all this stuff. So they have to have a big tournament, and just for the sake of the fan base and the morale of the team and Pochettino and everybody, they got in their minds, they have to win it. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, or at least have a good showing. Like, if you lose a tight one to Mexico or Canada, whatever it may be, so be it. But you have to at least, you can't, if you're USA, you can't get bounced in the quarters, let's say, for example. Like, I mean, crazy. That's horrific. I mean, I almost want to say you can't get bounced. Honestly, to me, a failure in the USA standpoint is if they don't make it to a final. They lose the final, whatever. It's a one-off. Yeah. But I would say, but I mean, yeah, they should win. But with the current trajectory, who knows? I mean, but I would say a disaster is if they get knocked in the semis. I think that's a disaster to me in terms for them. But I'll move on to my next team.
Okay, here we go.
And I'm going to say Honduras. I think this is a Honduras team.
I like that.
They need to have a good run.
Tell me
they've
why.
Had the showcasings these past couple of years. They've had good performances against Mexico these past 2 years. They've had good performances against Jamaica. They're a team that's knocking on Jamaica's door, like in terms of like everybody wants to talk about Jamaica and all this and all this. Honduras, meanwhile, they're in the same group in Nations League. I believe they drew, and then Honduras won, if I'm not wrong. I don't know. I remember watching those games for sure. I can't remember the results, but those were hard-fought games, 100%. And while I don't think Honduras necessarily has the quality, as it currently stands, I think they need that momentum out of this Gold Cup leading into qualifying, because it's going to be hard, because they're going to face a giant in whatever group they land in, most likely with the current format of the the World Cup qualifying, because the favorites right now for each of those groups, which is probably going to be set up and separated into, is you're going to have Panama, Costa Rica, and Jamaica. So wherever those may land, they're going to fall with one of those three teams for sure. And
I don't want to play them.
If you're Honduras, you want to go into that feeling good, like you performed well in this Gold Cup. You feel like you can compete. You're moving well. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it because, like I said, I'm just not super high on their player pool at the moment. And from what I've seen, it's looked kind of sloppy, but they are scrappers, and they've proven that they can win games ugly.
Yeah.
And to me, I just feel like they want to come out of this tournament feeling good about themselves leading into the World Cup qualifying. And that's why I think it's so important for them to have a good one, and they can kind of establish an identity and who they want to be once they leave this tournament. And they found something that works.
Okay.
That could potentially get them over that hump.
Yeah.
Maybe not directly qualified, but if they can get to the intercontinental playoff.
Yeah. I can agree with that. I like that shout. I like that shout. Listen, I'll be real. I got two more quick ones, and I got a little bit of an honorable mention one, and you probably already know which one that is. But for my two quick, I'll be real with you, man. I got another Central American team in the same group, Group B, group with Honduras, El Salvador. I just feel like this team they have history a little bit on their side. Obviously, Mágico Gonzalez, one of the greatest CONCACAF players of all time, as we've known. El Salvador, if I'm not wrong, has made 2 World Cups. Historically, in the Gold Cup, obviously they haven't won. Obviously, besides the USA and Mexico and Canada back in 2000, El Salvador and like the rest of CONCACAF have not won a tournament. But this is historically a team that they don't do the worst. Obviously, in these tournaments, it is a little bit more, I guess you could say, a little bit more expected. They seem to be fine, usually when it comes to lesser oppositions. I say that, but then in the last Gold Cup, they lost to Martinique. So, it was a little bit different. But I have to be quite honest, though. I think this is a team very similarly what you were saying, dude. They got to have high vibes. Now, I'll be honest with you. With El Salvador, it's a double-edged answer. It's a double-edged sword type of answer. One side going into this Gold Cup, if they find a way to qualify, which as of right now in their group for World Cup qualifying, they are behind Puerto Rico still. If they can find a way to get through there with Suriname and whatever, I think the vibes are going to be high. I think they're going to go into this Gold Cup. They're going to want some blood. They're going to want to beat some teams, and they're going to want to get on it. They're going to want to get on that bus and go to wherever they got to go play and go play. So I think, like I said, the player pool very similar to Honduras. Only difference is the El Salvador player pool is a lot less talent. They're not producing the best. The league's kind of been down in the past years. It's just not been looking the hottest for them. So that's what I said. I think El Salvador has something to prove. Now, like I said, it's a double-edged sword answer. They don't qualify. Puerto Rico and Suriname go through. I don't give a crap what happens to El Salvador. I'll be quite real. I don't think they have nothing to prove. I think they get bounced in the group. It'd be like, yeah, you guys just lost to a country that only plays baseball. So, nobody's going to be expecting the most out of them. But like I said, it's going to be interesting. The other one, real quick, I want to say, bounce into the Caribbean a little bit. A team that you guys are going to be playing in the same group stage, Dominican Republic, Dominica Republicana. I think the Dominicans, there's been a lot of hype. I did República Dominicana for my Dominicans. Don't come at me, please. I apologize. But listen, I think, the names on this team, obviously the big likes that we already know with Mariano Diaz, Peter Gonzalez, Junior Firpo. There's names on this team of guys that have played at big teams and in big leagues. So this is not a smaller team. Kind of similar also like the El Salvador. It's a double-edged sword answer. They don't qualify for the World Cup to the second or the third round, then, I don't want to say that we don't expect anything from the Gold Cup, but it's just kind of whatever. I will say, though, also for me, the reason this team has to be able to perform and they have to show is going back a little bit to last summer. The United States qualified to the Olympic men's tournament. Who was the other CONCACAF team to go with them? Was the Dominican Republic. And to be quite fair, Julian, I know we kept up a little bit with it. They didn't have the worst performances. Obviously, lost to Spain. if I'm not wrong, they tied Uzbekistan, and then I can't remember exactly. They either like lost 2-1 or they tied 1-1 with Egypt. So this was not a team that like absolutely got smothered, couldn't score goals, and they bunkered down all game. They played quite well. I remember Peter Gonzalez quite clearly in that Uzbekistan game was taking it to the Uzbek defense. So this is a team that, like I said, last summer showed that they can play, and this is with the U23 team. So I think it'll be quite interesting. Like I said, it's gonna be different. It's obviously a tough group for these guys. It's no easy pickings. More than likely, they are going to be the slim picking team. So we have to see. But in regards to last summer, they've already shown in the world stage that they can compete and they can play. So this is another tournament, and some people would even regard as a lesser tournament. They need to show up and they need to show out. So, Julian, do you have any other teams, any other honorable mentions you can think of?
Yeah, I'll say this is my last. I have one. I'll just do a quick honorable mention, but in terms of like my final team, to me, it's Jamaica. To me, Jamaica has looked progressively worse. They potentially might get Mason Greenwood. I don't know I haven't been keeping up with that, so I don't know what the update is with Mason Greenwood actually playing for them. But quite honestly, I don't think it really makes a difference because the biggest issue is what they can create in the midfield and hold possession, which they can't. And I think they're in a tough group, but I think is the hardest group. Oh, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell. They're top 2 hardest group in the tournament. Like, that's a tough group they have to face. And there's a real possibility that they don't make it out of the group. Like, it's possible for them because they just haven't looked as strong as what their roster says they are. And if you get out of this tournament and you get grouped, I think people are just honestly going to stop talking about you. People have been talking about them, about how they've been underperforming, and this. I genuinely believe if they get grouped, people are done talking about them. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Honduras has leaped them. Honduras is a more relevant team at this point, and now you're going into the club. You're going into the World Cup qualifying. Honestly, probably feeling super defeated.
Bad vibes.
And I genuinely believe that this is their last straw. Like, I think this is their last straw. If they can't have a good showing with this current generation in this tournament, it's a massive disappointment. And I don't know how you turn around that reputation, because the only way you can turn around that reputation if they get grouped this tournament is if they qualify for the World Cup and they perform well in the World Cup. That's the only way they can redeem themselves if they get grouped. And I think this is so much pressure on this Jamaican team because it's going to be not pretty if they not get it out. And then as for my honorable mention, I'm going to say my honorable mention is a team that's very similar to how I feel about Honduras, where they need to have a good one so they can build that momentum into qualifying, and that is Guatemala. I think Guatemala, they're looking at their group and they're like, we got a shot to advance. And honestly, I think they do. They realistically do. They have a chance to, and it's not out of this world that they could advance. They did last World Cup. Right. They were in a quarterfinal. So it's possible. And I think for the sake of that team, because they've been pretty down since the beatdown that they got from Costa Rica in September or October, whenever it was, they need to reestablish themselves because they're such a momentum-based team. It feels like when I watch them from a third-party perspective, like it seems like they're rolling when they're rolling and they beat up on the smaller teams, but then when they get smacked around by like a bigger team,
they just
start to they get defeated. Like they look defeated even against teams they should beat. So I think if they can come out of this feeling really good about themselves, then they enter into the Club World, I keep on wanting to say Club World Cup, the World Cup qualifying, there's a real chance like they're competing for that final spot in the continental tournament. So yeah, man, that's my honorable mention. And I think, so what do we have? Costa Rica, Jamaica, Honduras, Guatemala, USA, and you have Dominican Republic. I don't necessarily agree with that one personally. I can see your argument for El Salvador. I don't necessarily agree with that one either. Okay. Because I think both those teams are kind of playing with house money I don't think they have pressure.
Mm,
I think they're still trying to figure stuff out.
maybe not full on
I think
Dominican Republic, but the El Salvador one kind of almost, and it kind of brings me to my point with Jamaica was well, this one's more strong on Jamaica. The reason I disagree with you on the Jamaica take, Julian, not that I don't think they need a good Gold Cup. It's unregardless. If Jamaica gets grouped, if Jamaica, if Guadeloupe dropped 4 goals on them, dude, this is burn the whole kitchen down. What are we doing right now in
I think if
Kingston?
it's just I even think if Guatemala beats them,
Yeah,
and they make it like that's a
I agree.
disappointment.
I agree. But the thing is, with Jamaica, historically, they've been able to show in the Gold Cup. And also, speaking, like you said, we've already talked in regards to qualifying to the second round of World Cup qualifiers. I think that's just going to, I think for the Reggae boys, I'm not saying if they get grouped, I want to, before I clarify, I'm not saying if they get grouped, it's going to be, oh, it's whatever. It's all good. No, nothing bad here. We're fine. It's obviously going to be like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? But still, with them having history on their side, making recent finals back in 2017 and 15, being able to, be in these tournaments, usually make a semifinal run. I just feel like most Jamaicans, personally, and most CONCACAF fans will look at it if they get bounced in the quarterfinals or if they get third in the group and going to say, yeah, that was Jamaica. That's the Jamaican team that we see. So that's kind of my take a little bit on it. I want to shout out, though, real quick, honorable mentions. Listen, I'm going to say 2 real fast ones, one of them being my boys, Panama. I'm going to make it real quick, dude. I just feel like not to say that we have to win the tournament, not to say that anything. I would love to, not against it. Love my boys. Let's do it. Coco Carrasquilla, hat trick. Let's go, baby. Michael Amir Murillo, golazo from outside the box. I'm all for it. My biggest thing is we got to keep the vibes rolling. The vibes rolling. Obviously, we've already talked a lot about it on this video, Julian. The next round of World Cup qualifiers. If you guys already haven't, subscribe down. We're going to be talking a lot more about that. So I think the vibes got to be good for us going into that. So that's what I want to see. Obviously, going into it, and the Panamanian perspective. Another quick team, and this is our team that is our invitee nation, Saudi Arabia. I just think Saudi Arabia's got to put some respect on Asia. I'm going to keep it simple, keep it straightforward. I just think if Saudi Arabia walk in here, get grouped, if Haiti drop 3, if Dukans Nazon does a freaking Puskas goal-winning award, and Trinidad and Tobago and Kevin Molino say, see ya, buddy, glad you guys showed up for nothing, just beat the crap out of y'all, I think Saudi Arabia is going to go back and all of Asia they're going to make a joke out of them. I think memes are going to be strong in Riyadh. I think it's going to be bad. I think they're going to get embarrassed, and I think they're going to have a restart program, and for Saudi Arabia. So that's my thing. I don't know what I want to hear real quick. What do you think about that, Shout?
I don't agree with the Saudi. I think Saudi Arabia is going to be missing so many players. I don't know. I don't think they expect much out of this tournament. I think they're just kind of
wait. You're
get
telling
grouped. I really don't think Asia's going to look at it differently. To be honest with you,
you don't think if Saudi Arabia gets grouped, let's for real. Let's go for real. It's Haiti beats them.
Disappointment, but it's a disappointment. But the title of the video is "Who needs to have a good Gold Cup." I don't necessarily know if Saudi Arabia needs to have a good Gold Cup. I don't think they need that. I don't think it validates them in any sort of way. They still have progress to do in their own confederation. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I see it.
There's a reason why I had them at a honorable mention as well, because I do agree with that point. So, but yeah, all right, man. Like you said, we got a good couple of teams that we feel that need to show up and show out this tournament, and we'll see. We're excited. Julian, any final thoughts before we go ahead and close it out?
No, that's it. If you guys made it to the end of the video, we greatly appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to the content for more CONCACAF videos like this, as well as a little bit of European footy if you want. But obviously, our bread and butter is CONCACAF. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.